All right. So we're going to be running malware today. And if you didn't know, we are ACM-W, which is the sub-org of ACM, which is a completely free-to-join tech organization on campus. I'm assuming you've all heard about it by now. If you haven't, if you scan that QR code, you'll be taken to Portal, and you can join our Discord and see all the different things you do. If we do, and if you go to 7 meetings within a year, which within a semester, sorry, then you can go to the banquet, which is coming up probably in April, and you can like network with sponsors, get free food, get a little certification or piece of paper that says you're an ACM member, and stoles if you are graduating. And this is the specific check-in for this event, but honestly, the last QR code takes you to Portal as well, so either one works. And if it's not working for some reason, you can go to portal.acmutsa.org/events and then just go to this event. Real quick, what's ACM-W? We are focused on supporting women in tech. We host different workshops, professional and networking opportunities, and we are open to everyone and helping each other just learn more about technology. And today is a very special workshop where everyone's favorite unpaid intern, Lauren Grissom, is going to be presenting malware for you all. So here we go.
I'm Lauren Grissom. I'm a senior. I'm in CS, but my concentration is cybersecurity. That's why I'm able to tell you so much about malware. A few disclaimers before we start. So this, first of all, will not be a follow-along. I do not recommend trying to jump in and start doing what I'm doing immediately. We'll have resources if you want to jump into malware analysis and stuff like that later. But for right now, this is trained professional on a closed course. Now is not the time to replicate it. Also, running malware is on any machine that does not belong to you or you do not have express permission to run it on is illegal. Like capital I, italics, bold, underlined, illegal. So I would not recommend doing it. It's not, it's one thing to run it on, a VM that you own, that you have complete control over. It's another thing to download a keylogger on your best friend's computer because you think it's funny. That is technically still illegal. With that out of the way, here I have a virtual machine. This is just a virtual box. It's Windows 10. Right now, all of the settings. So if I go here, if I go here. Sorry, it's UTSA Wi-Fi and a virtual machine, so we might be slow going for a while. Right now, I have Windows security, basically everything turned off, because as of right now, the specific type of malware that I will be running has been caught by Microsoft. You can see I have here. This is not recommended. Also, I have cloud delivered protection off, and I will be turning real-time protection off. Yes, Windows tries to put as many blocks on you doing stupid things like turning your security system off as possible. But all of these things you want to keep on. They will keep you from accidentally running malware. Granted, there are some false positives, some false negatives. But yeah, so specifically, I will be demonstrating a case of ransomware, specifically the WannaCry ransomware from 2017. In brief, there are lots of different types of malware. I think the purpose of this demonstration is to show you what different types of malware look like when they actually run, because I feel like it's this very nebulous thing. Like you hear from your brother's friends, mom's sister that, oh, I clicked on a link and then my computer exploded, and it's like no one really knows like what exactly happens. I can't show you a lot of different types of malware, so I just picked one. This specific ransomware was most prolific in like the late 2010s, but it's still around today. So this is hot malware, you could say. It was developed / released in April, 2017, but it really took off in May. The background, it was believed to come from North Korea. That's where it's highly theorized to come from, specifically the Lazarus group. But it obviously spread throughout like the entire world. For example, in 2018, after a whole year of it like being live, Boeing had a bunch of their, I believe it was their manufacturing / product stuff infected by WannaCry. Other sectors such as like other manufacturing, healthcare was hit by this. Especially in like the pandemic, there was a huge surge with like hospitals hit by WannaCry, which didn't help at all for the whole, global pandemic going on. But all that out of the way, I'll get into WannaCry in particular. So, not advised, but I have a few documents here just as like an example. Because it would be kind of boring to run ransomware on an empty computer. So I have a few pictures. This is definitely not a stock image of a random family I found online. Yeah, I have some pictures. I have some documents just to show you the different types of files, what happens to different types of files. Nothing too complex, right? Definitely not any social security numbers or passwords in these documents at all. But so to speak, here, it's in downloads. So in downloads, I have a giant folder full of malware. And I should mention, you'll see this is called binary. There's a split between binaries and source. For WannaCry, the actual source code has not been found. It has been leaked or like traded online. All researchers have found is the binary for it, the binary executable, and they've managed to reverse engineer a lot of it to figure out how it works, generally what it does, what was the intent behind it. And getting into that, people have discovered about 4 main components of WannaCry. Specifically, here I'll just pull it up. Specifically, you can split it into, so you can see there's a lot of malware, and we'll get into different types of that. So that's the actual application here. I won't run it just yet. But so of the 4 components, there's the drop. They called it the dropper. Basically, it extracts the other 3 components, and those other 3 components do like the heavy lifting of the malware. So of the other 3 components, there's the encryption and decryption app, which basically goes through every single file on your computer on that user and encrypts them and decrypts them. And actually, it does more than that. If you have any sort of like USB plugged in, or if you have like an external hard drive, it will spread to those 2 and encrypt and decrypt that as well. Secondly, it has a file for encryption keys, because I won't get into the specifics of like cryptography, because that's a whole mathematical lecture that I'm not prepared nor qualified to give. But in order to decrypt files that have been encrypted, you need a specific key pair. And lastly, there is a copy of Tor for communication with the attacker group. So I'll get into it in a little bit. I'll talk. How are we doing on time? I don't want to. Oh yeah, we're pretty good. I feel like I'm teasing y'all, showing the application file and then not clicking it. But so just a bit of background, a little bit more background. The WannaCry malware itself isn't anything revolutionary. What made it so deadly was the specific exploit it used. It specifically targets Windows machines, and it uses the external blue exploit, which was pretty famous. There's a little drama surrounding it. When it was first discovered, it was highly theorized that the first people to discover the exploit was actually the NSA. And naturally, the NSA, instead of releasing it to the industry saying, hey, this is a really big issue that like we should really focus on, they kept it secret, and allegedly kept it secret and just developed code to harness the exploit. So later, when hackers developed their own code for it and posted it online, and it started to spread, Microsoft got kind of mad and was like, hey, it would have been helpful if you told it. They eventually caught it themselves, but the NSA allegedly found it much sooner than them. So Microsoft was like, hey, it would have been super helpful if you told us beforehand, but I'm not going to say the government learned their lesson about sharing industry secrets. We can only hope that they did. Anyway, I'll get into it now. Before I start, again, teasing y'all, any questions so far? I want this to be accessible, and if I'm just yapping up here and I'm talking a lot of nonsense, please call me out on it. Say, hey, can you explain that more? We're good? Also, feel free to raise your hand whenever. I'm totally cool with that. All right. So when running malware, you'll see a little pop-up here saying password needed. It's possible to password encrypt certain files, and what researchers do is they will, like you might see, like there's a massive amount of like individual folders, and that's partly because this is just a lot of malware in here, but there's also a lot of zipped files. That's a way that researchers will kind of like contain it by putting it in a lot of boxes, specific like zip files, but they'll also have a password just so that it can't run itself. The passwords are never really complex. This one is just infected. So if I run it, you'll see here, it looks like not a lot is happening. See, my Windows Defender is aware of this, so it'll say, hey, I don't know if this is, oh, it's saying specifically, hey, you turned this off so we can't scan these files, so you could be doing something really stupid. I know what I'm doing, and I know I'm doing something stupid, so I'm gonna continue. And you'll notice, if all things go well, or I guess unwell, that something popped up here. That's kind of crazy. I did not expect that at all. Let's go investigate. This says, if we look, it says, please read me. I guess I'll read it first. That's odd. What's wrong with my files? I don't know what this means, so I'm gonna close it. Wanna decryptor. That's kind of odd. Maybe I should go back in here and read it. Let's see. My important files are encrypted. I mean, they don't look encrypted. It's right here. It's perfectly fine. What do I do? First, you need to pay service fees. I need to pay $300 worth of Bitcoin to this address. I don't believe it. This is perfectly fine. But it says that my files aren't accessible. What does that mean? If I go here, I see another to-do list down here. If I try and open my normal to-do list on the super fast UTSA Wi-Fi, oh, that's not normal. I had normal text here, but now it's all not normal, and it's gone now suddenly. If I try and open this, it says, that's weird, it says the same thing, but it says it's a WannaCry file. If I try to open it, there's, maybe if I just do that, this is really odd. Oh, it just looks the same. Maybe if I just, it says it's the decrypt, oh. I kind of goofed, don't you think? So this is the WannaCry staple. Its full name is WannaDecryptor, but it says, oops, your files have been encrypted. It has a little info, nothing we don't really know. It helpfully hands us a Bitcoin address if we wanted to pay them the $300. Usually this would be like an actual countdown. I think it gives you like 3 days, or else it says like, well, like up the payment. And then it gives you, I want to say it's like a week before they'll just completely delete your files. But it's super helpful. They gave us this guide on how to pay them. If you go here and you say decrypt, it'll try and like, you have to like, so the idea is you send them the money over like the Bitcoin, and that they'll send you the key, and so then you can go in here and you can like trace the path to get the key. Obviously I'm not going to pay them. But I can here see, have I paid, has the money gone through, have they received the money? Spoiler alert, I have not paid them anything, so I don't really care. They're super helpful about giving a bunch of languages too. That was very convenient. But yeah, so we see back here also, they changed the screensaver, which is pretty typical for malware. They like to like pull tricks like that, like haha, I changed your background. Actually, a big thing. Oh, and this keeps popping up like every like 30 seconds, so it kind of becomes super annoying if you wanted to try and use your computer after it got ransomed. It's super annoying about trying to get you to click it. I'll just leave it up here. But you can see if I go even to this folder that I have of my lovely family, all of these I turned it into, it looks like Notepad. So if I try and click it, it'll just be useless. So I'd love to tell you like a little hack, how ironic hack. I'd love to tell you like a strategy you can do to go on here and delete it. It's not really possible. If your computer gets infected with ransomware, there's not much you can do in way of like purging it. Really, the best advice when it comes to ransomware is to recover from it. Preventing it obviously would be the optimal. You know, don't click on links, don't go to sketchy sites and download free Robux. I guarantee you it's not Robux. The free RAM download is not real, okay? When this happens, there's not much you can do by way of removing the malware. The best thing you can do is do like a fresh install of your Windows operating system. That will purge it because you're essentially just wiping it clean. Which comes to the issue of, if I wipe it clean, what happens to my files? You've already lost them, basically. If you're seeing this, you've already lost like all your work. Yeah. Yeah, that's the optimal, and that's why backing your stuff up in any fashion is the optimal choice. I use an external hard drive that I have, and I do backups on it. I try to do it monthly when I remember, but I don't always remember. But professionals recommend, I think it's having 3 different backups. So for me, that would be 3 months worth of backups, and having them on 2 different devices. So if you wanted to have it in the cloud, you can have that, and then also on your main computer. That's great. But then also, little caveat about if you have it in an external drive like me, you don't want to keep it constantly plugged into your machine. Windows has a way that you can do like scheduled backups. You just keep your external drive plugged in, and then it will like every month, every 6 months. So I think even crazy as like every day, it'll back up your stuff. In this kind of scenario, if you get ransomware on your computer, you don't also want it to encrypt your external hard drive. So yeah, so the best thing, there are things you can do. You know how when I first clicked it, it looked like a lot of nothing was happening. If you were really quick with it, you might be able to stop some of the damage. Right now in this virtual machine, if you look down here, you see this little globe icon. I'm not connected to the internet at all. That's part of why you need to run it. If you're going through malware, it's part of why you need to do it on a quarantined machine. There are some types of malware that will try to connect to other machines on your network. So if you click on something and this happens to your machine, you better run down to your mom's room and say like, hey mom, you unplug your computer, like check your computer, because it is possible for malware to like, kind of hop on networks. So if you think something's gone wrong, disconnect it from the internet, unplug Ethernet, unplug from Ethernet, LAN, Wi-Fi. You want to completely quarantine this machine because there's something very wrong with it, right? So that's something you can do like in the minute. That can maybe mitigate some of the damage. But yeah, and also external hard drives and other stuff, like I said, that's stuff you can do immediately to try and mitigate it. But once you're here, you basically lost your files. I would not recommend paying the ransom because, you know, the whole don't negotiate with terrorist things. But also because there's no guarantee if you send the money that they'll send you the file. They could just completely screw you over and then delete your files anyway, you know? So that's generally not recommended. It encourages the attackers to continue. And yeah, there's no point to it. Yeah, so install the most recent, or and that's another thing. If you back up your computer, if you're a good kid and you back up your computer regularly, good on you. You're being smart. But there's also the chance if you do like a fresh install, or a fresh install of your backup, that the malware, and I'm using malware broadly because they all kind of behave differently. It's possible that it could be sleeping inside your computer and you don't even know about it. Sometimes they set like a clock and they'll say, 4 days after a computer gets infected, then execute, right? So if I click this, maybe nothing happens now, but I wake up in the morning and my screen goes black, kind of thing. So if you do regular backups like that, like something crazy like every day, it may not be the smartest to do the most recent one. Maybe you want to go a week back or possibly a month back, depending on when you think this has happened. Otherwise, there is an interesting component going into kind of like the history of WannaCry. Like I said, it really hit the ground running in 2017, but all throughout 2018, 19, 20, it was kind of just creeping all over the internet. I think in a report in 2019, they said that 60% of manufacturers had had a WannaCry attack in the last 6 months. I think the number was 40% for healthcare organizations. So it was very viral back then, and it's still viral now. Part of the reason why it's died down a bit was there was actually a kill switch built into WannaCry. Researchers didn't exactly know the purpose of it. When it going through the binaries, they discovered when it executes, it makes a connection to a hard-coded URL in the software that basically I'm gonna try and read it out, but it's not gonna sound like it's just a string. It's IUQERFSODP9IFJ, and that's only like a third of it. It's all that .com. So when researchers saw this, they were like, that's a really weird URL to suddenly like make a connection to. So they did a little digging, and a certain researcher, they were theorizing that it will ping this domain, and it'll check to see if there's anything registered / active happening at that domain. And if it's unactive, then if it's unactive, then execute. So it's like kind of a backwards mechanic. If there's nothing there, then do something. Researchers were theorizing that this was meant to be a kill switch. If for any reason the Lazarus group decided like we don't want to do this anymore, that they could just put something at that domain, that really weird domain that no reasonable person would put a website at, and basically shut it down. Again, researchers don't know why they'd want to shut it down if they had like some master plan beyond getting money. It was theorized to be from North Korea, so maybe there was some geopolitical drama associated with it. No one really knows. But when they discovered this kill switch, the researcher who did a lot of the digging basically bought that domain for like $11 and put something there, which basically like activated the kill switch. And it didn't completely solve the issue because it's still a problem now. But it managed to fix a lot. It managed to kind of take a lot of the wind out of its sails because it stopped a lot of computers from being encrypted in that way. Any questions? Yeah?
The chat's asking, let's say you do regular backups in the cloud. What prevents the ransomware from just spreading the cloud and locking the data?
Yeah. I don't have an answer for that off the top of my head. all. I guess it would depend on the cloud provider, I'd imagine. With I'd say cloud is your best bet I'd say cloud. I don't know that there's anything stopping cloud from being, or there's no reason for cloud to be encrypted in the same way that like external modes of what are they called, storage would be. I'd say cloud would probably be your best bet. There are other issues with cloud storage that already exist. Cloud security is a whole nother beast that I haven't really tapped my toes into. But yeah, I don't know that specifically this ransomware has any mode for traversing cloud storage like that. Any other? Yeah.
I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like the reason cloud is somewhat safer is you'd have to like custom, even if it's like constantly connected, it's a proprietary protocol, and then I feel like this is going to encrypt specifically like OneDrive.
Right. Yeah. So what he said was essentially like ransomware would have to target specific like proprietary versions of cloud storage to target specifically like Google Drive or OneDrive or stuff like that, which is, yeah, it's an added layer of complexity to the malware process that I don't think a lot of people are thinking of. I think people are banking on your average PC user to not back it up. But yeah, question.
More of a fun fact. A few days before Malware was released, Microsoft actually patched the internal bleed exploit a few days before it was released. A lot of people just got infected because they did not update the computers.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that it's very important to update your computer to see Microsoft update.
Yeah, and that's part of why they were so mad too. They were like, maybe more people would have had. We literally patched this already. This shouldn't have been an issue, but because they caught it so not late, but because they caught it later than the government, it was just like what the heck kind of moment. But yeah, update your computers, do backups, do not turn off Windows Security, Windows Defender, all that. Yeah, the free Robux, the free V-Bucks is not real. And a big version of a big issue I think with malware is specifically adware, and just the craziness that happens with like ad pop-ups. I think that's your biggest issue when it comes to. It sounds so cliche for me to say, don't click on suspicious pop-ups. I feel like a corporate representative doing like phishing training, but that's where a lot of malware gets downloaded. You should be perfectly fine if you're trolling, like trapezing through the normal internet. It's when you like hit the fringes. It's when you click on that random ad while you're going through, get your ad blocker. Like, this is me shilling an ad blocker now. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had. We finished kind of early. Pleased by that. Again, any other questions or comments, concerns? Love to hear all of it. But yeah, that's all I really have for you now. I could go over vaguely if you wanted to go. Oh, that's a good point. I'm so glad I started speaking. I remembered now. I think, yeah, sometimes yapping pays off. So vaguely, going through the process of how I did this. So you see I'm running a virtual machine. I was playing around with different malware before I could really pick which one I wanted to do. So I have, this is again a Windows 10 machine, 64-bit. I had another one. This one specifically was for attacking, and then I have a Debian machine for attacking also. Nothing really interesting is happening on there. I was just playing around with stuff. But if you wanted to get into this, kind of the vague steps I went through, the biggest thing I'd say, even if you get a virtual machine, same virtual box, and you create your own thing, there are some steps you need to take. You can't just slap a virus in there, run it, and then expect to be perfectly fine. There are some things you should do first. First, check shared folders. Shared folders in a VirtualBox are specifically between your computer and the virtual machine. You can also share, I think, between virtual machines, but please do not have any shared folders between your physical machine and the virtual machine. It's kind of a recipe for disaster. Also, networks. You can see it says not attached. Basically, I think the default is NAT. This basically connects to the internet. You want to turn this off because, like I said, some viruses, malware, whatever, can spread through the internet, LAN, whatever. You don't want to be attached to anything because that will, especially when I was thinking this, I was like, man, it would really suck if I ran malware on UTSA Wi-Fi and I accidentally had NAT checked. Oh, I would not get my diploma, I think. That would be a one-way trip to expulsion. But so you can see here I have victim and attacker. If you wanted to run attack like maybe like a remote access Trojan between like an attacker and a victim machine, you could do host only adapter. There are some settings for that. We'll have resources if you want to like play around with that, with like having an attack machine and like a victim machine. But yeah, generally, if you want to like recreate this, please be not attached. There's no safe way to run it attached to the internet. Other than that, I'd say most viruses, most malware work on Windows because I'd say the vast majority of people use Windows. Also Mac, but Christian's looking at me because he's a Mac user. Yeah, I say most people run Windows because Windows was like the everyday person's machine, but also it's like it's like a big corporate machine, a corporate operating system, and people love to mess with big corporations. But yeah, so also you want to have snapshots. Snapshots are big in if you're not familiar with virtual machines. They basically save an instance. Like they take a snapshot. That sounds stupid to say, but they take a snapshot of your whole machine at one point. So you can see I took the first one when I was setting everything up at about 9 last night. And you can see I said fresh install, no modifications. It was just completely new Windows. Snapshot 2, I downloaded the zoo and I put on fake information, aka my beautiful family photos that I have now lost. So this was all. So if I wanted to right now, it says current state changed. That means from snapshot 2 to now something happened. If I wanted to, which I'll oh, it's because it's running right now. I won't close it right now. But if I revert, I'll say restore. It will go back to the snapshot and I'll get all my stuff back. That's super useful if you're running malware because then you can see like, okay, that blew up my computer. I'm gonna go back, and so it's just a way of resetting. Especially if you have like multiple types of malware and you don't want to go through the slog of having like 17 different machines. But also on here you could see it's probably encrypted actually now that I think about it. But in my downloads folder I have the zoo master. The zoo, like I said, the zoo. So you're probably wondering how I managed to get safely get malware onto my computer, because like I literally just said like don't go clicking random links, and yet somehow I safely got malware onto my computer. There's a big push for researchers to put malware samples that they've collected and researched online, like how I showed you. There was like the source material and then the binaries. Basically, whenever new malware like hits the scene, researchers will collect the binary, the source if it's available, and start to tear it apart in virtual machines, like we said. And they will. I literally got this from GitHub, so I don't want to like drop my plug, but it's GitHub. If you disclaimer, you don't want to go onto GitHub and then just download something that says, oh, it's malware, because it genuinely might not be safe malware. There's a way researchers package it, like I said, with the files become password protected. Files are like in compressed zips. You want, the zoo is like an accredited, like researcher approved place. Place for getting malware. That's why I have like a whole, like you saw, like a whole list of malware. If you are interested in finding veritable sources of malware, you can generally just Google, like, you know, researcher malware samples, and a lot of places will have you register. It's free. They won't like ask you for your credit card and then screw you over 9 months later. But it's mainly for like but like safety reasons, so they know, okay, this person downloaded malware, and then suddenly like 12 hours later a bunch of it's legal reasons, I imagine. But yeah, they have a bunch of places, resources, and samples of malware that you can safely download. You'll want to look for, it's called defanged malware. It's where they password protect it. Sometimes they'll even, none of these cases were defanged in this way, but it'll say WannaCry bracket dot bracket exe. That's a way of safely transporting it. So then you just go in and you rename it, you get rid of the brackets, and then it turns into a proper set of malware. Any questions about safely traversing malware? Okay. So like I said, we'll have more resources. There's also courses you can take. I hate to be just like take a boot camp kind of person, but they also have courses where on slides, yeah. I'll go here now. Yeah.
All of the steps are in the Google Doc.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so if you want to.
You're on the next slide.
Yeah, so these slides will be available afterwards. I'll just open it here right now. Oh, never mind.
Oh, LOL.
Never mind. I was just.
Go to the next slide.
So yeah, so I feel really stupid just saying go to YouTube, Google it. But a lot of, it's CS, a lot of things can be learned online. There are a huge, there's like a wealth of people online that go through malware and other cybersecurity. I'll full screen it also while I yap. There's like a huge, I can't remember, there's this one guy, he has this his beard is so epic, it's like super long. I can't remember his name or his channel off the top of my head. He makes really good stuff. You'll know him when you see him if you do like.
Oh, it's a pirate, right?
I think so. You'll know him.
Makes a lot of YouTube shorts.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I haven't seen his YouTube shorts, but yeah, you'll know him by the beard. Tell him I sent you. It's the beard. Then the TCM Security Academy, they do practical malware analysis and triage. Kaylee herself, actually, it's the course, right? It was a $20 course where she learned all about how to set up a VM very safely, securely. I didn't use it, but there's a specific VM called Flare VM that's even better. It's like a researcher sandbox in particular, meant for like playing with malware. Why they call it a sandbox. Then there's the beginner malware analysis course for Overflow, the reverse engineering malware on Pluralsight, and malware analysis and reverse engineering on Udemy. So also, if you're interested more about like malware, there's a class at UTSA called malware and reverse engineering malware. Definitely take that if you're interested. I believe it's in the data science. It's like downtown in the data science building. I've heard only great things. I haven't taken it myself yet because it didn't fit in my schedule, but I've only heard great things about it. So if this interests you at all, if you like the idea of getting elbows deep in binary like that, definitely take it. Yeah. I think it's a CS. It's like an upper division CS class, so I think it's only for.
Version of it in the CS department, I think.
And they have a version of it in.
I think it's different though. There's definitely a lot more assembly in the CS version.
Yeah, the CS version. So Kaylee's telling me that there's like a cybersecurity version. There's a cybersecurity version like in like School of Business, I assume. Yeah, so there's a version for that. The data science, the CS version, will be a little more technical, but there should be there's a lot of overlap between CS and business for cybersecurity. So yeah. Come again? Oh, the Google Doc works. So yeah, so if I missed anything, which I'm sure I didn't because I'm great at this, but if I missed anything, here's more information. If you are not familiar with VirtualBox, here's a lot of the links, and you need ISO, which is basically like the operating system file like that you would mount. Yeah, we'll have this available afterwards. And yes, I would definitely recommend using Flare VM, becoming familiar with it. Even if you don't take the TCM Security Academy class, definitely look into Flare VM. Otherwise, yeah, that's all. That's all I have for you. If you have any other questions, I'll be around afterwards if you want to talk at all. Otherwise, thank you for coming. I hope you learned something and you had fun. Yay. Okay.